If you were a kid in the 1980s, you probably partook in two of the decade's greatest pastimes, video games and tabletop role-playing, which went together as well as peanut butter and jelly. The Dungeons & Dragons rulebooks barely need an introduction. They provided its readers solid structure for the wildest battles in their imaginations. Like many other developers, Exidy were eager to bring the magic of Dungeons & Dragons to the arcades. Rather than making a computer RPG like everyone else, they wanted to adapt D&D into an action game anyone can understand at a passing glance. No rulebook required. This gave us Venture in 1981. It looks like a shallow little running gun on the surface, but true to its name, it ventured into uncharted territory with impressively deep gameplay for its age. You're a peppy hobbit thief named Winky, but if you mistook him for a phone emoji or Aquaman with a harpoon gun, you'd be forgiven. And you're delving into the depths of 3 dungeons to steal their fiercely guarded fortunes, armed with your quick feet and an unlimited supply of arrows. These dungeons have several rooms within a larger central map, which contain the treasures you seek, but also your opposition, which is the real treasure of this game. The monster variety here is astonishing by 1981 standards. Dragons, spiders, genies, and bats being a handful of the critters lurking about. Each beast also gets their own short song to give them more distinctness. That plays, assuming the room even has enemies at all. In true D&D fashion, sometimes you'll have to escape traps like these speeding walls of death. The uniqueness here is unprecedented compared to other games where you only fought one group of enemies the entire time. How well Ivy and his team clearly did their homework on what made an adventure suspenseful. But even more impressive is how they built a compelling game by bringing these beasts to life with artificial intelligence. As early as level 2, your foes won't keep pursuing you brainlessly. The trolls and everything more humanoid will make an effort to predict what you're going to do, running away when aimed at and hiding behind walls when you're firing, demanding you outsmart them by facing the wall or other direction to make them think you're running before turning around and getting an easy shot in. All while under pressure from invincible hall monsters that'll barge in to stomp you if you don't think fast. Furthermore, you also have to be careful where you shoot these enemies, as their bodies block your path until they decompose. There are many factors you have to consider within mere seconds, and you've got to be prepared to fall back to an exit in case the monsters are uncooperative, making Venture, quite possibly, the first tactical shooter in video game history. Feel free to correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. This design we take for granted today was considered advanced and super challenging once upon a time. I'm sure other companies had intelligent enemies in mind without thinking about Venture, but the amount of games Venture directly inspired proves it didn't fluke its way into gaming history. What other game around this time asked you to pay attention to the exits so you don't step outside to an unwelcome surprise? The one-hit deaths, coupled with all these rooms having choke points to dispatch the monsters, make Venture somewhat fair as well, winning it my favor compared to Gauntlet's later levels. These ideas would have formed one of the greatest games of all time if it weren't for one fatal flaw: unresponsive controls. Anytime you try to turn around, Winky hesitates to orient himself before he can face another direction. This isn't exclusive to the arcade version. Most home ports maintain the stiff movement. The delay was a conscious design decision to simulate the time it takes for someone to turn around. Think Resident Evil. The big problem here is, it's way too slow for the second loop onwards. There are several rooms that don't have any barriers or constructs to lure enemies toward, and in that case, you're just completely out of luck when they speed 4 times as fast as you. The spider room is one of the biggest offenders. leaving long-term survival partially up to luck when it could have been all skill. These rooms were likely untested on purpose to guzzle quarters. I get it, it's an arcade game. It's gotta make money. But you could get way better value out of a game of Donkey Kong, and that was still difficult without being unfair overall. Unless some super player finds a consistent strategy for the large rooms. In which case, I'll gladly delist this review and write a more positive one. I bet if Venture were to be reimagined today, it would be very similar to the secret area of Action Doom. While a Doom Engine remake with all the tactical shooter innovations of today would be ideal, I still have a pretty positive opinion of the original Venture. It has the innovation like Hide and other genre molding games, but it doesn't have polish or charm. I think it's fair to give it a B. You'll enjoy it, but you likely won't be addicted. Cheers to you for watching the video through to the end. If you liked it, feel free to leave a like, a subscribe, or a donation. This game was suggested by Pembroke W. Corgi, running his channel Artificial Orange Studios. And I highly recommend you check him out when you get the chance. He's also fond of cool old arcade games. I'll see you next time!